And I grew up on a horse and been riding all my life. And back then when we had children, or my wife and I had children, we kind of got away from them a little bit. They were all introduced on how to ride and everything. But really got serious again about training and trying to show some back in about 7 or 8 years ago. And the first person that videos I watched was a guy named Clinton Anderson. And that guy is good. And he reminded me, his techniques reminded me a lot of my dad. And so it's really good. I told Megan that he reminded me a lot of my dad. I think my dad was as good as anybody working a horse on the ground. But he did it a little differently. My dad would introduce fear into the horse, where Clinton Anderson is introducing trust into the horse. And so I'm kind of in Clinton's side right now. And the first thing I want to do when I get on a horse, I want to make sure the horse is listening to me. So I'm up here, and one of the first things she teaches you guys is to have that horse flex. So I just take a little pressure right here, have him come on. This isn't necessarily the best bit for that, but he'll still do it with this. So I'm making sure that I've got control of his head. So obviously we've got control of his head right here. So we got that. Next thing I got to do is got to know how to get him to go. So, you know, if you got a horse and you're standing still, you need to be consistent on your cue to go into a walk or a trot or a canter. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bump him right here a couple of times. Now, if you bump your horse, he may kind of take off a little more than this one does, okay? Because he's waiting to say, are you sure you want me to go? And I'm saying, yes, let's go. So he's going now. So that's all I do to get into a walk. And if I want to get into a trot, I'll just give him a little more bump. I'm going to maintain contact with his face here because I want him trotting under control. So I have his head right here, and again, you know, I've still got control. I got lateral control of his head, either way, so he's listening to me. So I got him into a trot. I've got control of his head. I also want to be able to push his body around a little bit. So one exercise, I was telling Wendy this, she said she had a horse that was real stiff on one side or the other. I like to get a hold of his head right here, take my right leg, and I tell myself I'm making him bend around my leg. So he's bending around, his whole body is bent around my right leg. So I pushed him over there, and I've got control of him. So I want to be able to do that both ways. So I'm going to bend him this way also. So I just lay a little pressure on this leg right here, but I'm going to kind of push him with the right leg. The left leg is holding the bend. And so I've got his head here. And it's not a jerky motion, it's a steady motion. You know, you hold that, when you ask him to give, you hold, then release. Okay, so I feel like I've got control of his head now. Got control of his rib cage a little bit. I also got to be able to control his shoulders if I want to do the maneuvers that I want to do. So how do you know if you've got control of those shoulders? The shoulders are going to be controlled by your rein, and it can be your outside leg a little bit. So I'm going to bend him this way, but I'm going to lay that rein on his shoulder, ask him to cross over, and to see him cross over, that right leg cross over, even though I have his head to the right, okay? He was able to turn to the left. And then we come right out of it. So if you can do that, you know you've got control of that, of his shoulders. See? So that's the first part of doing what we call the spins or the turnarounds. You got to get to those shoulders. Then I'm going to take that right, I'll put this right leg so you can see it. Then so I want to get his hind end coming around. So I can control his hind end. So I got control of him now, okay? I got his head, I got his shoulders, his rib cage, and his rear end there. So we got him. And that's all Clinton stuff right there. Did I do it all right, Megan? Yeah. Okay. I'm just copying Clinton on it. Okay. So now we got pretty good control of him. now I want to be able to canter him, okay? Or lope him. So when you're teaching a horse to lope, believe it or not, you want to be able to, you've got to get a hold of his face a little bit. You can't just give him this and let him stretch way out and get going, okay? So you got to work on it. You got to give him a cue. My cue is, I give him a smooch, and then I give him a leg cue as according to which lead I want to go into. So if I want to be in the right lead, I'm going to, start him out in the right lead. So I'm going to get that hind end going this way, and I call it a C. I put him in a C position, okay? So when he goes into a canter right now from this position, there's only one lead he can get into, and that's the right lead. And I got him like this and go. So he's in the right lead, and again, I want to, and while I'm cantering, I want to have contact with his face so that I feel like I've got control of him. So if I ask him to go faster, I still want to have contact with his face, where he's not just running away with me. So I'm going from a canter to a gallop. I've got to let him know what the cue is for that, okay? So my cue for that is just to lean forward a little bit. We still want to maintain contact with his face. So we're galloping under control right now. So now when I want to come back to a canter, all I'm going to do is sit back down and pull my hands back a little bit. And I hum to him. So we back into a canter. So I think, this horse is under control right now. You can go fast, you can go slow, and he's listening.
Is that saying no battery?
Now,
I don't either.
I always maintain contact.
Has someone younger.
He's going to be so
legs.
upset.
And Clinton says, that's your accelerator. You're driving your car, you take your foot off the accelerator, the car slows down. So if I'm driving along on Deuce here, and I take my foot off the accelerator, something's going to happen. It's going to come to a stop.